What if one of the most important pictures ever taken wasn't of a far-off star or a big historical event? What if it was a blurry, fuzzy image of something so small you could never, ever see it? This one picture held the secret to life itself. It was a clue that could explain how every plant, every animal, and every person works. This photograph had a simple name. It was called Photograph 51. The story starts in the early 1950s. Scientists all over the world were in a huge race. They knew about a special molecule inside our bodies called DNA. They knew it carried the instructions that are passed down from parents to children. But they had a giant problem. No one knew what DNA looked like. Was it a long, straight noodle? Was it a lumpy ball? Figuring out its shape was the biggest puzzle in all of science, and everyone wanted to be the first to solve it. Into this big race walked a brilliant scientist named Rosalind Franklin. She was incredibly smart and incredibly careful. She didn't like to guess. She wanted proof for everything she did. Rosalind was a master of a very difficult skill called X-ray crystallography. Think of it like this. She used special, powerful rays to take a picture of things that are way too tiny to see, like the molecules that make us who we are. But her journey was not easy. She worked at a place called King's College in London. At that time, it was a very tough place for a woman to be a top scientist. She was often on her own. The other scientists didn't always give her the respect she deserved for her amazing work. They didn't see her as the leader she was. A man named Maurice Wilkins was supposed to be her partner. But there was a big misunderstanding. He thought she was there to be his assistant, not his equal. This made things very difficult from the very beginning. Instead of working together as a team, they often worked separately. Rosalind Franklin had to prove herself every single day, even when others doubted her. Taking this picture wasn't a lucky accident. It was incredibly hard work. Rosalind Franklin spent hundreds of hours just getting her tools ready. She had to pull the DNA into a single, tiny, perfect fiber. This was a very delicate job. To get the sharpest possible picture, she built her own special X-ray camera. It was designed to capture every little detail. She controlled the air in the room with amazing care. Even a tiny change in humidity could ruin the experiment. Every step had to be perfect. She was a master of her craft. Her patience and skill were the reason she could see what others could not. She was looking for proof, not just making a guess. Then, one day in 1952, it happened. After running a single experiment for over 100 hours, a new image came out. It was clearer than anything before it. This was photograph 51. To most people, it would look like a blurry gray picture with a dark cross in the middle. It was a ghostly pattern of smudges. It might not look like much, but to a scientist who knew the code, it was a map to a hidden treasure. What did this strange picture actually show? The first and biggest clue was the giant clear X shape in the center. That X was a perfect sign. It was the shadow of a spiral. This wasn't a guess. It was a mathematical fact. Franklin knew right away that DNA had to be a helix shape. Think of a twisting ladder or a spiral staircase. That was the basic shape of the building block of life. Her picture was the first clear proof of this spiral structure. It turned a smart idea into a real, visible thing. The helix was real. But the picture held even more secrets. The little dark smudges on the film were like markings on a ruler. They told her the exact size of the spiral. She could measure how wide it was and how often the pattern repeated. And there was one more amazing clue. A few smudges were missing from a specific line in the pattern. This tiny missing piece told her something huge. It wasn't just one spiral. It had to be two spirals twisted together. The secret of DNA was a double helix. Meanwhile, two other scientists were working on the same big question. Their names were James Watson and Francis Crick. They were trying to build a model of DNA, kind of like building with Legos, but they were stuck. They kept guessing the shape wrong. Then, a key moment happened, a moment that would change history. Rosalind's co-worker, without her permission, showed her secret picture to James Watson. He saw photograph 51, and in that 1 second, everything clicked into place. The big clear X in the middle of the photo was like a giant sign. To Watson, it screamed that DNA had to be a helix, a twisting ladder. But the photo told him even more. The smudges and dots were not mistakes, they were exact measurements. Rosalind's secret numbers, which were also shared, told them exactly how wide the ladder was and how far apart each step should be. Suddenly, they weren't guessing anymore. Photograph 51 was the blueprint. It was the final, missing piece of the puzzle. With this secret knowledge, Watson and Crick quickly finished their model. They rushed to publish their work, telling the whole world they had discovered the secret of life. In their famous paper, they barely mentioned Rosalind Franklin or her photo. A few years later, they won the biggest award in science, the Nobel Prize. Rosalind Franklin was not included. She had sadly passed away from cancer, and the Nobel Prize is not given to people after they are gone. For a long time, her huge part in the story was almost erased. But stories like hers have a way of coming to light. Today, we know the truth. We now celebrate Rosalind Franklin not as someone who was overlooked, but as the brilliant, careful scientist who made the discovery possible. Her work was the foundation for everything that came next. Her story teaches us something very important. It shows that science isn't just about sudden aha moments. It's about hard work, patience, and paying attention to every single detail. It reminds us how important it is to share credit and to honor every person who helps find the answer. And it all comes back to that one ghostly image. Photograph 51. A single picture taken through hundreds of hours of work by one dedicated woman. That photo unlocked the code of life. It opened a door to a new world, helping us understand what makes every living thing alive. That single photograph changed everything. It was more than just a picture. It was a map to a secret world hidden inside every living thing. One image held the answer to one of the biggest questions in science. This shows how science really works. It's not always a sudden flash of a big idea. It is often about careful, patient work. It's about getting one perfect piece of information that proves everything. Once the secret of the double helix was out, it was like a dam breaking. A whole new river of science flowed out. Scientists could now read the book of life. This started the field of modern genetics. Think about the medicine we have today. Many cures for sickness come from understanding our DNA. We can find problems in the code and learn how to fix them. This all started with the clues in that one X-shaped shadow. But the story of Photo 51 is about more than just science. It became a lesson about fairness. It made people talk about who gets credit for big discoveries. And it showed that everyone's work is important. Rosalind Franklin's dedication has inspired so many people. Her story is now told to young scientists all over the world. It reminds them to be careful, to be brave, and to believe in their own work no matter what. Science is a team sport, but it can also be a race. People are people. They get excited, they compete, and sometimes they make mistakes. The story of DNA teaches us that how we work together is as important as what we discover. Her real gift was not just the photograph. It was her powerful belief in proof. She would not guess. She would not jump to an answer until the fact showed her the way. That is the heart of all great science. This way of thinking is her true legacy. It is a guide for anyone who wants to find the truth. Look at the evidence, test your ideas, and trust what the data tells you. So, the X in photograph 51 marks a treasure spot in history. It pointed the way to the double helix. But it also pointed the way to a better, fairer way of doing science, and a deeper understanding of life itself.